Welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, helping you get to your onward journey. A friendly service that helps you get from A to B, or probably nowhere at all. Hello and welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. I'm your host, Sam, and with me is guest co-host and very, very good friend of mine, Danny Havlik.
Hello. How you doing?
I am very good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm good. It's good to be here. Good to be on the show.
It's lovely to have you back. So for those at home who don't know who Danny is, first of all, you need to go back in our back catalogue and listen to Danny's episode of Various Multiple Units, which is Danny's handle on Instagram, X, Facebook. Is that it? Is that all of them?
I think so. Oh, and Blue Sky.
Blue Sky, there we go. And we had a little chat with Danny. You've also been on several other shows. One of them was the famous Boomer episode. And then there was also the first ever Christmas special. You came on that as one of our guests. Definitely not the lowest scoring guest of the show.
I can't believe you've called it the Boomer episode. I'm not being funny, but I ain't that old.
I mean, Steve is, or Steve looks it at least.
Bless him. No, that was a good episode, actually. I enjoyed doing that with Neil and Steve. It was nice to be part of it. They're good guys. They're not boomers, though.
The thing is it just fit really well. It just made it seem like that's the case. We know you're not that old. It's fine. But I mean, we know you're not because you didn't get your house for £11,000. So that's how we know.
I wish.
Yeah, I wish. So just very quickly before we go and have our chat, which I think people will be able to guess from the title of this show and also because the fact that it's yourself on, what have you been up to hobby-wise, Danny?
Oh, what have I been up to? I'll be honest. After Christmas, I've kind of dipped into doing bits. I haven't been that busy, only because I've got quite a lot going on and there's been quite a lot happening outside of the model world. But I'm working on a build of a 442 and a 456, which are two EMUs that I'm working on, both in 00. And both for me, which is unusual. So I'm working on those at the moment. I'm really enjoying those.
Nice. That's what I like to hear. Cool. Well, I mean, you've talked about some EMUs that you're working on, and I feel like today is definitely the perfect time for us to talk about multiple units. Now, I'm clarifying multiple units because I know a lot of people will have heard that it's you and me sat talking on the show. Of course, the Southern boys are going to be running riot. And I did say to Danny before we started recording, I've already subjected everyone to a narrow gauge only episode. I've already subjected everyone to a TT episode. We are not making this a specific Southern region thing. Danny,
but I thought we were calling it the third rail. I am like so prepared for an episode all about third rail units. Is that not what we're talking about?
No, we're gonna lure them in. We're gonna pretend that we're gonna be talking about other regions, and then at least we get them past the 5-minute mark, and then Spotify records it, and then it helps our stats, you know.
No, it's all good. I've got plenty to share about overhead electrics and DMUs as well, so it's all good stuff.
Excellent. Well, I think now is a perfect time for us to take a short break. And then when we come back, Danny and I are going to be talking about multiple units in model railways.
It was a dark, rainy day in Porthbury, and Lord Chester stood in his porch with sorrow in his heart.
I can't believe he's gone, Wilson.
Yes, sir. It is all very sad. I have the car waiting. And, sir, you are going to leave it at home, as promised.
Yes, I'll leave it here.
Whilst in the car?
What will I do now, Wilson?
Maybe you'll have to learn to do it yourself.
I blame that bloke who kept badgering him about a poor job.
Quite, sir. Well, here we are.
Wilson opens an umbrella and Lord Chester steps out of the car and surveys the funeral.
Oh, look, they're all here to pay their respects. There's John. He always loved his work. And there's my cousin, Lord Chester the First.
Chester, it's so good to see you. Such a terrible, terrible day.
It is, it is. Oh, look, here comes the hearse.
There he is. I can't quite believe he's gone.
I know, but at least we'll have something to remember him by.
Sir, you promised not to bring that. Don't get it out here. Not at a funeral.
No, I'm getting it out. It's what he would have wanted.
Blimey, he's got his dirty shunner out.
I say, chaps, watch it. You're losing the coffin.
The coffin is dropped with a mighty crash. Sam's body falls out of the coffin. Oh, blimey! Quick, lads, help me get him back in.
Look at that.
So fresh. So clean.
Like he's straight out of the box.
And now, he's all dirty.
Oh, even in death he's still at it. A god amongst men.
Emperor's Path is now closed for business.
What should I do now, Wilson?
You could always treat yourself to a little loud.
Sam was little.
And we're back from our break. So, Danny, I thought it would be a really interesting thing to talk about something that is not only consistently on the network today, but something that's been around on the network since the 1920s, maybe even earlier. Would you agree?
I have no idea where this is going, but I'm intrigued.
You can't see it. I saw Danny's reaction then, and it was genuine. So we're going to talk multiple units. Now, Danny and I are very well known for our interest in Southern multiple units, be it electric, be it diesel or something like that. But I think something that gets forgotten about a lot is that multiple units have been around for a very, very long time, and a lot earlier than the electric and diesel days, sort of mid 60s going into the 70s type thing. And the only reason I've had this idea that that's how early it came about is I know from reading a book specifically today that parts of Waterloo Station were electrified in the 1920s, which would lead me to believe that multiple units came about from the 1920s. Is that correct, Danny?
Well, yes and no. So there's a lot of there were a lot of units that are no longer, well, there's tons of units that are no longer running, but the southern region was electrified with third rail quite early on. It was one of the pioneering regions with electrification, and the reason for that was because of the suburban network. And so it was actually the London to Brighton was one of the earliest, and the Southwestern followed. But yes, most of the electrification was part of the suburban network. So there was quite a lot of units that were produced very early on. But interestingly enough, the units that we had around the 80s and 90s were built and designed going back into the 50s. So they replaced a whole load of units that were entirely going back to before the Second World War. So it is highly probable that they were built much earlier than certainly the 40s. I would say probably, I would go back as probably far as the 20s, the original probably ones. Yeah. It's funny because it's not really my era, so I don't know as much about it as I as I should do. But those units like the four subs and the Knolls, and you're going to get all of these names that a lot of people outside the southern region think, well, how is he talking about Bill and Lav and all that kind of stuff? But there were a whole load of units that were pretty much wooden built on steel frames, but made of wood.
Yeah.
The actual bodies were made predominantly of wood, and they all ran certainly during the wartime period, but they were local suburban services. The express trains and the long distance ones were all steam. It was only in the sort of the 60s that we started to get express train and long distance third rail based units.
Yeah. So we've promised we're not going to be all about third rail, and whilst that's mine and Danny's sort of favorite area, there's a lot of units out there that aren't third rail. Some are electric, some are diesel. So just to sort of roughly discuss what we mean by multiple units. So multiple units in my eye is a set of coaches or coaching stock that come in a set of some as little as one, some all the way up to 6, I think is the top one. Oh yeah, I've got it. And they aren't pulled by a locomotive. So, for example, they're not pulled by a Class 50, a Class 37 or something like that. I mean, I think there's one exception, which is quite a well-known and quite frequent sort of set. But I'd say a multiple unit is something where it is... I mean, do you count the 122s and the 121s, the MLVs? Do they count as multiple units, despite the fact that there's not two of them?
Would you like me to help you, Sam? Would you like me to give you my handle on it? So a multiple unit is essentially self-propelled coaching stock that can run in multiple, so more than one, and it can run in multiple so that you can drive it from either unit or either units, and it doesn't require additional power from an outside source such as a locomotive. So that's how. The longest ones are 12 coach ones in the UK. The Thames Links, they're all 12 coaches. You've got some 10 coach ones like the Arterios, and they go down to one coach like the MLV and the 153 Class 153 DMUs. So yeah, there's all sorts of variety out there, but essentially they're coaching stock that can run in multiple.
Do you class the Azumas as a multiple unit? I personally would, because I don't see them as sort of the HST style, where the HST is effectively two diesels on either end. I feel like the Azuma definitely classes as a multiple unit. I think it's probably the most famous multiple unit around these days.
The APT is almost considered a multiple unit. The way if you can run it in multiple, I mean, there was a time, if I'm honest with you, when HSTs were considered multiple units because they were in fixed rakes. So we class them as Class 43s now, and Mark III rolling stock. But during the 80s and the 70s, they were in set rakes, so they were classed as Class 253 and 254. And they were considered multiple units at the time, but it just became too challenging because it meant you couldn't swap the power cars over.
Yeah.
So but the HST was at one time it was a multiple unit. But yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. We're all learning
I'm
something
full of it,
here.
me. I'm full of it.
So I thought something that would be quite interesting would be to talk about some of our favourite multiple units from around the country, and specifically then going into some of our favourite ones that come in ready to run form, because after all, this is a model railway podcast, and it would be important to talk about something that comes available in a ready to run form. Also because Danny and I have experience of kit building, whether that's sort of cut and shutting or doing whole kits like Danny's done on some of his other bits and bobs. I thought we could talk about ways of doing it. And for those of you listening at home who think that we're just going to be covering 00, don't worry. Danny and I specifically this week have done some research, and it turns out that we can discuss this talking about N gauge and TT as well.
And
And you're throwing these curveballs at me, and I'm loving it. That's good to know. Okay. Because in my head, I was like, who'd be mad enough to do O gauge multiple units? And I know for a fact there's plenty of people out there who do O gauge multiple units.
Yeah. And we're in a really exciting time because you won't. I'm sure you'll remember when I first came on to the podcast many moons ago, and I had a real. Well, actually, you poked me into having a real meltdown about the lack of EMUs and DMUs that are ready to run. And we are at an exciting time now because all of that frustration and heartbreak has paid off. And we are now in a position where we have quite a good range of EMUs and DMUs, and not only a good range, but an oncoming onset of further double O, TT, N gauge and O gauge units coming our way. So we've got lots to talk about. So yeah, this should be I hope, a good conversation.
Excellent. So I'm going to put it to you as our as this is going to be your mastermind subject. Any sort of abbreviations or things that we use, can we simplify it for people at home? Only because there's a lot of abbreviations, and sometimes even for me, knowing them and having a computer in front of me, it can be a little bit difficult. So we'll try to keep it as simple. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No anagrams, no acronyms, and no jargon. I get it. I'm under strict instructions.
Well, it always goes off the rails whenever it's me in charge. So, so we've got two directions that we could go here. We could start with the ready to run stuff. I'll talk about some of our favorite multiple units that are in real life, and I thought it'd be a really nice idea to talk about some of the ones that inspire us or are sort of like our favorites, things that we have seen on the network or we wish we'd seen and we've only seen it in pictures and things like that. So we'll start with you. Give me I don't know if you've got a list for this because I didn't ask you to, but do you have a particular set list for your top three, maybe?
The real thing, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna drop a microphone here, and I'm gonna actually admit that I am in my 50s. I was around during the 80s and the 90s, and I grew up around predominantly the network Southeast period. So for me, all of the stuff that was around during the 80s and 90s is what inspired me and what drove me to do what I do now. So I think for me, the top three units would probably have to be ones that I grew up around. And it's a challenge because there are some that if you would say a top 10, I'd probably be happier. But if I have to reduce it to three, it's going to be a battle. It's like saying, which of your kids do you like the best?
Well, let's meet in the middle. Let's go with five. Give me 5 favorites.
Yeah, I can do five. I can do five. A 4VEP, which is the Southern Region for class 423. And it's the one that we've had I've done a lot of work with in terms of promoting and helping drive footfall towards them. So 3417, Gordon Pettit, the 4VEP, that range of units is I just think they're amazing. I went to school on them. When I was at school, I used to get on one of those to go to school every day from Woking to Surbiton. And so they've kind of been like, it's kind of like your first car. It's just something that you feel so comfortable around. So that would be my first one. Class 442, the Wessex Electric, just beautiful. I just think they are just absolutely beautiful units. And I think it's a crime that we haven't got any still on the railways now. But I would say that's probably in my top 5. I do love the 4 EPBs. These are the suburban door window jobbies that most people will recognize as being from like the 70s and 80s, with just those doors. When you hear them slam, it's such an evocative sound, and they had the bounciest seats to sit on, so you used to sit in them, and every time you went over points and stuff, you would just be bouncing around. They were just incredible. 455s. we obviously grew up with those because originally I used to live in Kingston on Thames, and so we used to get those. Peter and I from NSE Latchmere, we used to go to train spotting as kids, and it would always start with a journey on a 455. And I think fifth one would probably have to be. Can I commit to one of them? Yeah, I would say I'm going to cheat and say it's the TC rep. So it's the original London to Southampton, Bournemouth, and Weymouth, the 40C4 rep, which is class 438 and a class 431 or 432, I should say. And they were the restaurant 4-car units that had that pushed the trailer cars. And so to give you, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, it's the 4TC is the trailer unit that the London Underground use now. It's painted in that lovely maroon, London Transport red, I should say. So that would probably be my fifth one.
Okay, yeah, that's a good list. I was really worried when I first sat down to do this, thinking that my ready to run list would be very similar to my favorite sort of all-time list, and I was surprised that it wasn't. So I think in terms of a lot of the British Railways EMU and sort of stock, majority of it ran in Mark One coaching stock, effectively, right? There was obviously the suburban stuff and the Mark One coaching stock, and I think I definitely have a love of those units that are heavily based on the Mark One coaching stock. But
me too.
I think it's and it's because I remember those lovely journeys of going from. I used to sort of jump on the train with my dad on a Saturday, and we'd go from Portsmouth to Chichester, and I remember Network South East so vividly. And I just remember the livery has always stuck with me. And when I got back into the hobby in 2020, I just never thought I'd be able to get anything like that because it just wasn't a thing. Like the only model of it that was around that I can remember was the 416 and the 423. But in terms of those Mark One bodied stock, I think there's a lot of different variations to it and subtle changes. But I feel like the 423 is the one that encapsulates it the best. And because obviously we've got Gordon Pettit that does its little tour on the main line as well, and goes to Heritage Railways for diesel galas and stuff like that. I think that's why the 423 seems like the more iconic one out of all of them. And I feel like it's a crying shame for not picking it. But at the same time, I agree with you. The 423's definitely got to be up there.
We're very lucky, to be honest, Sam, because the guys that have preserved that unit are the guys that used to maintain it at Wimbledon Depot. And they work tirelessly out of their own love of that unit to keep it on the rails. The money that they get from that is all charity. And they've got some, they put in a lot of hours to keep that unit in their own time, to keep that unit on the rails. So we're very fortunate that there are people out there that are really dedicated to doing that because of the love that they have for it. And it's one of those things that I just wish I could do more to support them because they're such an incredible bunch of guys. But yeah, it's great that we still get to enjoy that being around. And the funny thing is, whenever you hear the doors slam, it triggers a memory. And it's like you said, you remember sitting on it, traveling from Portsmouth to Chichester. And for many people, they probably traveled on those trains on their daily trip to work or to school or whatever, and didn't even give it a second thought. They just was like, it was just a means to an end. Just, that's how you got from A to B. But now when you travel on an HST or on a heritage railway, and you travel in one of those trains that you probably used on a regular basis when you were younger and didn't think anything of it, it triggers a lot of memory, and it's the sense of smell and the feel of it, and just being in that unit. It's, for me, it's really evocative, and I think that's something amazing that we still have that around. And we're very lucky that there's people out there that are prepared to put their money and time into providing us with that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna this one feels like I'm cheating a little bit, mainly because I just love the look of them, and I wouldn't be able to tell you which ones I liked and didn't like. So I'm gonna this is a very blanket statement. London Underground trains in general, I think are a fascinating multiple unit, simply because not
Yes.
only are they third rail, they're fourth rail. They've got
Mm.
they're so iconic towards London in general. And sometimes you see some of the older trains running around still to this day. Is it the Bakerloo train that's
Yeah.
like the oldest one? That's incredible to see such an old train. But then sometimes I see the stuff that's running on the district line, and I think this stuff's beautiful as well. Um, so as a sweeping statement, because I don't see them outside, you usually only see them underground. I'm going to say a blanket statement of just underground stock in general, because I think it's
Mm.
just got such an iconic, it's got very much a British railway sort of theme to it. And I think it's something that is criminally not represented enough in
Yeah.
model railways. And I think it would sell. I think you only have to look at the resale price of the Bachmann stock and the FE stock that goes up on eBay, and you
Yeah.
a manufacturer could easily make a lot of money on that.
Definitely, definitely, and I think it's one of those things that as tourists, many people in the country and abroad will go to London, and it becomes part of that tourism, like like the red bus and the black cab. So it's just very much intrinsic to London, and so I think there is definitely scope for more of it, and definitely great when you go to exhibitions and shows to see underground stock being represented now is fantastic. So I'm all for it. More, more, more.
um, I'm gonna go with one which, when you hear my top choice, there's a lot that I wanted to put in here, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because I feel like mine and your list would be similar in a lot of ways. My top one, I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anyone, especially when you think about the similarities to this one. I'm a big fan of a Class 150 DMU. Not only because they've been around for a very long time, the Watercress line, which is my local heritage railway, has just acquired the first heritage Class 150 two. Um, that's a class 150 two, not class 150 stroke two, because that gets confusing. And it's been repainted into the Sprinter livery, which is sort of the 80s,
Yes.
90s livery of it. Um, I love that it still operates on the main network today. It has had so many different liveries, and it has operated all over the country, going as far as sort of the all the way down to nowadays you see it in the GWR green in the West Country, and you also see it in I believe it's in ScotRail. I'm sure it's in ScotRail.
The one that's what, as in they still use them in Scotland.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, there
Yeah,
you go. Just double checking. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. I had to quickly Google that. I was like, wait a minute. I know I've seen them before. Yeah.
Yeah, they run them up on the far sort of Highland lines and so on.
Yeah. I know they definitely run out of Glasgow. I'm sure of that. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna cheat and put an honourable mention in here in a second. So the next one I love, because where I work in the country, um, is in the New Forest, Salisbury, in that sort of area. And I'm very lucky that a lot of the time I am driving right next to the only non-electrified part of the southern region, which is massive, really, when you think about it. The southern region is huge, and that area in the sort of Salisbury area is completely unelectrified. And bar one little sort of little badger that keeps poking its head out, like a ugly stepchild. Um, there's one particular brand of DMU that run that area, and it's the Class 158 slash Class 159, which is a two-car diesel unit, which once again still operates all over the country, once again in ScotRail, and it even operates in the Midlands. It operates here in my home area, and it does Waterloo to Exeter. It's such an interesting unit, because once again it's got that feeling of it's spanned so many parts of the country, but it's also spanned the last sort of 40 years or so, because they came in the early 90s, didn't they? The 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they were initially in what was called provincial um, originally, became regional railways. But they were also there was the three car sets were converted into 159s and used on the Waterloo to Exeter line. They replaced the 47s on it, the local hauled 47 stock. So they've been around since the early 90s.
And like I think they look great in any livery as well. Once again, you see it in
Yeah.
GWR, you see it in the Midland livery, you see it in the ScotRail livery. It's previously been in the provincial livery, the Network Southeast livery, Stagecoach livery.
And they were built by Burrell. So yeah, fantastic. Really, really fantastic units.
And there's something about there's a road that basically goes from Southampton, sort of Romsey area, all the way up to Salisbury, and you towards the end part of that road, I travel on it day after day after day, and the amount of times I get to see the 150, the 158s and the 159s going down there, and occasionally you'll be at the traffic lights with the window down, and you just sort of hear them going through, and it's you don't often get to hear that diesel sound down here in the south, and it's just really lovely to hear. So yeah, they're definitely up there as one of my favourite multiple units for the reasons that I've said. I like that you can go many places in the country and still see them, and it still feels like home because you know it. You can get lost in a lot of the different multiple units that are around nowadays. I remember the first time getting on a Flirt, and I just remember feeling completely weirded out. I was like, "What is this?" Because it's probably the closest we've got to like a double decker train. I'd say it's one of those trains where you go up and you go down whilst walking down it. It's not flat like you get on sort of the 455s and stuff like that, which leads me nicely into my final choice, which is the 455. Sadly, officially or unofficially, no longer running on the BR network, but there are still a few hanging around even after the farewell tour, just to sort of mop up after the 701s started coming in.
Yeah, the 701 5-car units are still being rolled out, and even though the 10-car Arterio units are in service, the 5-car ones are still going through the last of the work to obviously run them in terms of getting them ready to enter running service. So there's a handful of 455/7s that will be around for some time, just to obviously fill the stopgap.
Whilst I like the 701s, I feel like it's just a shame that they're replacing. It feels like because they're replacing one of my favourites, it sort of feels a little bit bittersweet. I'm sure they're nice guys, but you know what? I just can't forget about the 455. So yeah,
we went through this with the 450s when they took over, and the Electrostars when they took over from all the slam doors, and so it was a similar feeling of like, you know, when you see the VEPs and the SIGs that were the sort of the Mark I based units disappearing, and the 450s, which are the Desiros and the Electrostar units coming out, which were all lovely and, you know, air conditioned and plush, you know, automatic doors, and they were warm and stuff like that. But they weren't the same. You kind of, it's very much evocative of the same feeling, Sam, you know, that you must be going through with the 455s. I can appreciate it.
Thanks. That's what I needed to hear. I just needed that. I needed the backup. My honourable mention is one that maybe people wouldn't expect, and the only reason it's not sort of in my favourite, and it's because I've only ever seen pictures of it or videos on YouTube of sort of train spotting videos from the same era that I love, which is the Network Southeast era, and it's the Class 309, the Clacton units.
Oh wow! Okay.
I think they've got such a distinct look to them. So these are your northern EMUs. These were overhead EMUs, and it's the only one on my list. But it's the fact that I love that they're almost like a stopgap between the 442's wraparound front and the Class 423 sort of flat face front on them. And I think they look so weird but also really
Yeah,
cool. They're one of those trains that I don't feel they're represented. We've said before, when it comes to multiple units in Double O especially, whilst there's a lot of overhead electric locos and there's some units out there that are overhead electric units, it's weird that that particular area of the country, which did have an electrified line in the 80s and 90s, is I can't think of. Obviously, we've got the 423 in Double O for the Southern modelers, but it's weird that the Northern Midland modelers don't have units like the Clacton unit to represent their overhead
yeah,
electrics, despite the fact that overhead electrics is such a popular thing in comparison
yeah.
to the third rail electrics.
Very much so, and I think this is the last bastion that we've got to overcome, and it will change. And we'll get to it when we touch on the models, because there's a few things that I was going to give some shout outs about. But like with the Hornby Flirt, that's one that's sort of really come into its own, and the Batman 350 also. But that's pretty much it. And it's a real shame, because there's lots of units out there that we would love to see in Double O. But yeah, I don't want to steal from what we're going to be covering a bit later on. But yeah, there is definitely more that can be done for the OHLE range of model units, definitely, because there's some phenomenal things out there. The bedpans, which were the Class 317s, I think is a real sort of horror that we don't have those. And there's lots of stuff like if you lived in East Anglia or in Essex or in sort of the eastern region and Scotland for that matter, there's a lot of overhead units that you just can't get in model form, and it's a real shame, because there were some incredible things. And the 309s were the Essex Expresses, so they were very, very popular. So really good units, really good.
I think that they've got such a definitive look to them, and
Yes,
it's a shame that that's something that you could appeal to the Network Southeast modelers, and it's the kind of thing I think that even if you were a third rail modeler, I feel like the Clacton unit has just that. I think it's got enough likeness to the 423s now that even the overhead electric people would still purchase it.
oh, definitely. And
And
I would purchase it as a model,
yeah,
because some of them got dragged down to Eastleigh for the wheel lathe. So they weren't strangers to the Southern, even though they couldn't run on the Southern.
mm,
You would occasionally see, if you lived in the right place, if you were hanging around Eastleigh, you would tend to see overhead electric units sometimes brought down to use the wheel lathe, where Ilford or Hornsey didn't have the capacity to do that. So yeah, it would be something that I certainly would go for.
okay. So we have talked about some of our favorite units in real life. I thought now let's move on to the model railway side of things, and let's talk about some of our favorite ready to run items that are available. Now, this can be from any of the manufacturers. And looking behind the curtain, like before we started recording, I said to Danny, I'm quite shocked at myself, because actually this list is almost completely different from my favorite list of real life stuff. And Danny said, yeah, his is slightly different as well. So you're not listening to the same things we've just said going into the ready to run market stuff. And I think that's because we talked about this before. It's a bit of a crying shame that some of the stuff is missing from the ready to run market. But then maybe that's why the other ones are our favorites, because they're not available in ready to run.
Sam, I've got a bit of a confession. I kind of made two lists because, well, reason being, and I think I think this list, because there is a vast range of DMUs and a vast range of EMUs now. And I didn't feel it was right to have one list with both on, which I could only have 5. So I've got a list of DMUs and a list of EMUs. So I hope it's not going to be a problem for me to cover them.
1 second, I'm just going to end the call. No, by all means. So I'll ask you then, which one would you do? Which one do you want to do first? Do you want to do the ready to run in diesel or the ready to run in EMUs?
Let's do diesel. Yeah, let's go diesel.
Cool. So give me your, is it in a particular order or is it just your top five?
No. I've just picked five that I just think are really the bee's knees.
Cool. All right. So in which case, give me your five ready to run. I'd like to know the manufacturers and why you've picked them, because I think that is just as important.
Okay, so I've tried to be unbiased in my choices, but I also feel that there are specific reasons for this. So I think there was about 25 to choose from, and this is my double O list. The first one I'm going to go with is the Bachmann 159/158. I think because we had the original version and now we've got the redone version, which is even better. I just think it's a fantastic unit. I think it's got great playability. It's got all, even the old one's got working lights. It sounds great. The detail on it is really, really strong, and I just think it's a fantastic model. And obviously you've got it in Network Southeast for the 159, and you've got it in Provincial. You've got it in all of the sort of the regional liveries, and I just think it's a fantastic model. Really, really top notch.
And it comes in the Southwestern Railway livery as well, which I think was a great move by Bachmann.
Definitely. It's a fantastic model, and the thing I love about it is that you can pick them up now on the second-hand market for around £100. If you've got a two-car provincial livery one or regional railways livery one for around £100. So it's a great model, even if you're just starting out, or and they were everywhere. They've pretty much like we said in that conversation earlier. They're everywhere. So that for me is a fantastic model, definitely, and one of Bachmann's best builds, definitely. Next one I've got is the Helljan 104. Now it's only just come out, but if this is where multiple unit ready to run models are going, I think we're in for some incredible sort of models coming our way. Definitely, I think it's fantastic. Yes, the price is steep, and I can appreciate for a lot of people that it is a high price for what essentially is a 2-car or a 3-car unit. But the quality of it is just phenomenal. And the thing that I was most blown away by was that you can actually just the body shell is clipped to the chassis with magnets, so you can just pull it off. And for putting people in it and all of the detail and stuff, it's just a beautiful model. And it's Helljan. I think I've absolutely smashed it with this one. A really, really good model. Again, the price is a lot, so I can appreciate for some people it's a no-go. But I have seen the price drop quite dramatically recently, so hopefully it's accessible to a lot more people.
Yeah. Okay. They're great models. I don't have one, and I haven't owned one, but the reviews of it I've seen have been phenomenal. I think the only thing that I've seen people sort of be more upset about is the price. So
yeah, and it is a lot of money to ask for a multiple unit, and this is where we have a lot of challenge, because prices are always going to be a stickler now. The world has moved on and things are more expensive, but they've always been expensive, if I'm honest with you. It's just that we earn a bit more and we think, yeah, it should be cheaper, but it's not. But yeah, it is unfortunate, but it kind of nicely brings me on to my next one, which is the Bachmann 117. And you've got one of these, so I know you can appreciate where I'm coming from. It is an absolutely stunning built unit. And I remember having the Lima one when I was a kid, and I ended up hacking them to pieces and using them for donor vehicles when I was building EMUs back in the day when we didn't have anything around. So I don't have any of my Lima ones left. They've all ended up becoming other things. But the Bachmann 117 is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely love it. Really, really good. I just think the quality of it is exceptional. I think again the challenge with it is the price. It is an expensive model, but that's Batman, and they do charge a little bit more, but you do get some incredible quality with it, and it is an absolutely stunning model, and it's in so many liveries as well. So really good to see that it's still popular. My next one is dare I say it, the Hornby Class 153, the dog box. I love it. I love it. And we've got some really exciting stuff coming our way with the 153. There is a new version coming out. But the Hornby one, I just think it's great. It does what it needs to do. It's got the detail, it has the lighting, and I just think it's a classic little diesel. So
That's the first one to
that
actually shock me.
I love it.
I wasn't expecting that one. So I'm glad that you've put it out there. So well done.
No, I love that. I love it. I'm a huge fan of the Hornby dog box. I think it's great, and it runs everywhere. It runs anywhere, and it's like the 121 or the 122. It's just a great little unit. And my last one is the Helljan 128, which is the Royal Mail single car unit. Now I did and ah between that and the bubble car, the 121, but I think for me it's one of those things. I just thought it was a really bespoke looking thing. They're called Scooby Doos. The nickname was Scooby Doos, and I just think that Helljan really smashed it with this one. I only got one recently, and I got one just because I remember them at Paddington when I was a kid. Really, really dirty, really unloved, and just full of character. And I think Helljan have really encapsulated that. So yeah, I'm happy with my choices. There are things on the list that I've looked at and thought, no, I can't put that in, I can't put that in. But I'm fairly certain some of the ones that I've missed you'll pick up on.
Maybe. Not entirely sure. So I'll go through my list, which encompasses everything. Like you, I did find it quite difficult, but at the same time, sometimes you have to be cutthroat. But I'm just as excited to then come back around to your EMU one. So mine, weirdly, the diesels in this list for me have taken the top spot versus the EMUs. And I think that's more because some of my favorite EMUs just aren't in ready to run form. So you compromise with the ones that you do have. But the two that are EMUs in my list are fantastic runners. I had a lot of them at one point when I had my 00 gauge layout, and that was simply because you could connect them all up and get them to run together, so they ran like the units that you see on the main line.
Yeah.
And I think this one is possibly one of, if you can get one for a decent price, that's one of the older versions of it. I think it's a great starter if you're looking to get into EMUs, especially Southern Region EMUs in 00 gauge. And that's the Class 416, the 2 EPB. Now, depending where you pick these up, I've seen them for as little as £70 for the 2-car unit. So this is a 2-car unit, EMU, Southern Region. You get it in various liveries, but there's the 3 that I remember Bachmann doing, which was the Southern Green, or the BR Green, the blue and grey, and also the Network Southeast version. And these are just great little 2-car units that mean that you can set up yourself a little branch line station. And when you see little Southern Network Southeast era or BR era layouts, these are usually one of the staple 2-car units that are running in and out of the stations, because they're small enough that it means that they can have a little shunting layout, or a little shunt, like a little station scene that doesn't require big 12 coach trains on it. So it's a really good starting point.
Yeah.
I have never had a bad running version of this. I think at one point I had 4 units of 2 that used to run on the railway, and I used to run them in 4 coach operations, just sort of running out, because I thought 4 coaches on my size layout was a nice unit. The next one is the Bachmann 411 or 411. This one is also one of those ones that if you were looking to pick up one for cheap, usually it came in the BR green version. But if you pick one up for cheap, it's a really good 4-car multiple unit that you can run a new layout, and it, once again, powerhouse. It did all the work. I remember running my old one of these round with a Bachmann 4TC attached to it, and it pulled it no problem, which, considering it's a multiple unit, I wasn't expecting the pulling power of it to be as strong as it was. And I think you could easily have attached another 4-car 4TC to it and it would have pulled it no problem.
Yeah.
The only problem with a lot of the earlier versions of these is that they came in the unrefurbished version, which basically means that the layout on the two end cars is different to. Danny's going to kill me on this one, so I'm pretty sure. Forgive me if I'm wrong, please, Danny. The earlier versions didn't have a like a guards section in the middle. It had the guard sections on each end of the driving units. And then when they did the refurbished version, you had the central car, which had the guard section in the middle, in one of the middle coaches. And it meant that there was more seating at the other ends near the two driving ends. Is that right?
Yeah, so essentially the units were refurbished in the 70s, and which is why they had that really sort of, well, it was considered horrific, but I actually liked it. It was really bright orange Formica interiors and this bright yellow, because they were trying to brighten them up and make them a bit more colourful in the 70s. But obviously, anyone that knows the 70s knows that a lot of stuff went down. So they were refurbed in the 70s, and they basically changed the layout so that the guards van, as you say, was in the centre, matching the later stock, the 63 built units, so that they all had the guards van in the middle rather than at the ends. And that just meant that they added more seating to the driving ends, which was very well received.
Obviously, the later versions of these that came out from Bachmann are a little bit more pricey. I remember picking up versions of the 411 in the unrefurbished form. You could get them in blue grey, so if you didn't want to have to paint them, you could get them in blue grey. But you could also get them in the Southern BR green as well. I repainted one of these units into Network Southeast purely because there wasn't a Network Southeast version of it available at the time, and a lot of people found it irritating that I hadn't done the guards at either ends. But it was one of my first big repaint jobs. But as a powerhouse unit, they are fantastic, and you can pick these, or you could pick these up for around about £100 a unit if you just patiently waited for a decent one to come up on eBay or something like that. You wouldn't get it brand new for that price, but there was a point where you could get them for a good price if you were willing to wait. So once again, for a 4-coach train, I thought that was a pretty good price in this day and age.
Definitely, and I think there's something to be said about a lot, because I've seen quite a few people have painted the unrefurbished ones into either modern liveries like Southwest Trains livery or Network Southeast, or they've just run them with units that are from the later era. And given that their unrefurbished ones were refurbished in the 70s, they never obviously ran in those liveries or in that with more modern stock. So look, it's a rule one thing, isn't it? At the end of the day, your layout, if you want to have fun with it, then you do it, and I think that's great. And it's a great way to learn how to paint liveries and to do that kind of stuff. So, well, all power to you. Well done.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. I'm really, really proud of myself. You guys have no
No,
idea.
you did a good job. I remember seeing it. It looks great.
But then it was also because of you and Pete. Like I started on this journey, and I was in awe of what you and Pete were doing. And you were the first sort of people that I found on Instagram who were doing multiple units. So it was only because we got to know each other, and you and Pete both started talking to me about, like, this is really good. Like, have you thought about doing any of the etch side kits? And then I bought another one and did the etch sides on it. And this is before Bachmann I think I did this, and 6 months later, Bachmann announced the refurbished versions.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But like it's through like you guys encouraging me to get out of my comfort zone and go for a brass etch side kit to be able to do that. And it's we're going to talk about the sort of the kit side of it a little bit to sort of wrap this conversation up. But very quickly, no surprise, the one unit that's made a comeback on this list for me is the 159. It's one of those units for me that, like I say, I see it so often now in my day-to-day work, and I love seeing it. And it's so different to what I actually get to see in my hometown that for me, it has inspired so many different wants in my hobby. And this is probably the first one that I think, I can't remember if it's the 158 or the 159, but let's just say they're the same unit for this, all intents and purposes. It's one of my favorite units in N-Gauge. Having seen it run around in N-Gauge, it's a beautiful little unit. And I've seen it in the Southwest Train Stagecoach-esque livery. I think it's in the Midlands branding.
It is in East Midlands, yeah.
Yeah.
Swoosh.
The swoosh. And it's just a great looking unit. And I think this is one of those, there's a theme with my three diesels that are now on this list. And it's, I believe, in 00 especially, the perfect length of train when you're doing EMUs and DMUs is 3 coaches. And I think that's not for any reason other than it's a really good size for to be, what's the word I'm trying to think of? When you're trying to sort of
it ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, you're trying to compromise in this hobby, and we spend so much time trying to work out how much can I get in such a space, and that's usually track based. When actually sometimes you need to sit and think, how much loco can I get in that space? Still have enough space to run up and down, but also enough space to then hide it. And whilst 2 cars is a really good option, I feel like 3 cars is a great visual option for it. And that's why my top 3 on this list are all 3 car units. But the last one, bear with me. I've realized
3 cars is the way to go. 3 cars is the way to go, definitely.
I think when you see it at a show and you see the 3 car versions of all these units, they just look really good. And I think Tidworth is a really good layout for displaying this. And it's once again that leads.
It's a favourite of mine.
They've just done such a good job where the 3 car still seems like it's a great sized train. And if you think that is in comparison, if you were running a steam loco or a diesel, that's a loco and 2 coaches, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. But on so many layouts that run multiple units, 3 cars is a great size, really. When you think about it, you've got an entire train, and it's no bigger than, it's not a 4-foot long train like you get with a 4-coach unit. I think it massively changes how you can run a layout and still have something that looks impressive.
Definitely, and you can run it in multiple as a 6 car and get the feel of having a long unit in a if you've got a smaller layout, then running a 2-3 cars as a 6 is probably the biggest you'll go. And it feels great. You've got that sort of longer train length, but again, it's manageable as a 6. 2 4 cars is probably too big for a lot of layouts because it's just too much. So the smaller layouts. So no, definitely 3 cars is the way to go.
Which leads me into a complete agreement with yourself with the Class 117. I think it's possibly the best running multiple unit that I have ever owned. It is phenomenal with or without sound. If you get a good sound file that's low enough that it's not going to just kill your ears, especially if you're in a space that's enclosed like my loft was. I've always loved the 117s, never rode in any of them or anything like that, but it's one that in model form especially, I saw it and just loved it. I saw it in the Network Southeast livery and I was like, I really like that train. I think I saw, because obviously you've got the 117, which is a 3 car, you've got the 108, which is the 2 car, and then you've got the 121, which is the 1 car. And Everard Junction had them running on his layout. And I just remember looking at them going, this is cool. I like those units. They're more of a Western region multiple unit than they are a Southern. But I mean,
yeah, definitely.
They used to do the Gatwick to Reading.
That's right, yeah. And Tonbridge at one point. They used to run from Reading through Gatwick and then on to Tonbridge, and then in the end they electrified the Tonbridge section, so they only ran to Gatwick and back. But no, I think it's one of the classic DMUs, particularly of the 70s and 80s. And if you stood like anywhere between Paddington and Reading back in the day, you'd see them literally flying up and down the line, and they were just incredible to see. Absolutely incredible. And when you see them running in multiple, or with a bubble car on the end, they're just really, really, really good classic units. Lovely.
And once again, it's that 3-car thing as well. Perfect size, I think. And once again, Tidworth did this brilliantly, where they've got the 3-car version of it, and it makes the station feel like it is. It's got a nice big train in it, when actually all it is 3 cars, and then it goes off again. And I feel like that's. It sounds like I'm selling it short, but when you see the 3-car units on a exhibition layout, I feel like it makes a small layout feel big, and it makes a big layout feel like it's got something different to it. Because sometimes in the big layouts, it's almost too tempting to run the super long trains. Yet having one of those 3-car units sort of rock up gives it that little, oh, it's a small train. Oh, actually, it's not actually that small.
Definitely. And the irony is that a lot of the new DMUs and EMUs that are coming our way this year, a lot of them are 3 cars. So there's definitely something to be said about 3-car units, definitely.
So the last one, I said 3-car is my favorite version of it, but sadly, it's not been made as a 3-car unit yet.
Oh,
but
I know where we are. Everyone I talk to has a bugbear about this.
But I do think visually it is one of the best looking units. And I don't know if it's because I had such a fascination with Everard Junction over this one, but I saw him. And this is where I had a sort of like a blank spot over so many different units and types that I didn't really know this existed. Saw him do it, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" And then I find out that they were always in Portsmouth doing the Portsmouth to Eastleigh runs and stuff like that. And that is the Class 205 Thumper.
They were called Hampshire units.
2H and 3H, is that the?
Yeah, 2H and 3H, and. I mean, I've got a couple of these. I just think I think Batman did a phenomenal job making them, and it infuriates me beyond all belief that they still don't produce the centre car for the 3-car version. I can't imagine how many people have said to me that they would love that 3rd car, that centre car, and for some strange reason, it's just not available. And I know. Batman have told me several times there's a cost involved, and blah blah blah. But if we can get so many bespoke units like 4DDs now, and
or the Class 13, let's just clarify that the Class 413,
or the phenomenally beautiful versions of Caroline, the general manager's saloon, which is the most bespoke thing, then I'm sorry, there is plenty of room for a trailer car for the 2H to make it a 3H. So come on, Batman, get your finger out.
my argument on this one is you could do a more generic version, and you could 4 EPBs were a thing. They were the 4-car versions of the 416s that I mentioned earlier. You could do a generic one where you effectively have this coach, which, it might not have the right coach number on it, which somebody who is that interested in it could change it. I think if they sold just the middle coach, you could then upgrade your 2 EPBs, you could upgrade your Thumpers, and you can put those additional cars in them.
I mean, there are subtle differences in terms of, paint jobs aside and numbering and all that kind of stuff. There are some subtle differences because the trailers in the 3H have rubbing plates on them and the pipe work at each end, as opposed to the EPBs, which don't. But as you said, if it's generic enough that you can add those bits on, then yeah, absolutely, why not? And most people, if you give them a detailing kit, would love to have a go. So 100% with you on that one.
So I'd like to say it's the 3-car version, but sadly it's not. It's the 2-car version. Right. So that's my list. You've still got your EMU list to go.
I have, but I'll be really quick because we have covered some of it already. So I will whiz through. I promise you I will whiz through so I don't keep everyone, and I won't ramble. So ignoring the ones that we've already covered, so we've covered the SEP. I went with the 2HAP, which is the similar to your class 416. It's the 414,
Mhm.
and essentially it was the same as what you described as the 416, but it had a first class section and a toilet. And I just think it's just a beautiful representation of an incredibly celebrated unit. There's one in the National Railway Museum. One of the real one is in the National Railway Museum, and they've just done an exceptional job. I mean, again, it isn't cheap. That's the downside, but it is a beautiful representation, and I'm all for it. My next one is the Hornby Five Bell. Exciting times ahead with the potential re reissue of the Five Bell, the real thing that is, albeit in a very adapted and modernized form. But the Five Bell, again, like the 4DD, is probably the most bespoke thing that we have. But everybody knows it. Everybody knows about the Brighton Bell. So it's and I think Hornby did an exceptional job. The only thing I don't like is the printed curtains. I don't know. I just hate printed curtains. But the fact that all the little table lamps light up, I think is just beautiful, and it's just an absolutely stunning unit. So that's a big one for me.
Mhm.
The Batman 450. I'm fuming with myself because I remember being at Old Oak Common Open Day, which was in I think I want to say 2017, 2018. It was before they started knocking it down to build not Crossrail,
HS2.
HS2. And I remember going there with Pete, and I remember going to a stall, and they had the Batman 450s in Southwest Trains livery, in the not the weathered one, the actual fully blown, colourful swoosh livery, blue livery, and they were selling them for 200, and I think it was 200. I want to say £260, which for me at that time was a hell of a lot of money, and out of my price range. But now you can't even get them for like 300. You know, they're about 400 or 500 quid. So that for me is I kick myself about it daily, but that is a fantastic model, and I'm very excited for the new versions coming out in Southwestern Railway livery as well,
Mhm.
which is great. The Hornby Fleur, I think, set a new precedent in terms of EMUs. I remember seeing it last year at Ali Pali and thinking, wow, if Hornby can do that with a Fleur and sell it at such a reasonable price, and it is reasonable in comparison to what it would have probably been by another manufacturer, then I'm all for Hornby doing a lot more, because I thought they did a fantastic job on it. It's an absolutely stunning model. And my last one is the Bachmann Kerno 4TC. I absolutely love it. I just think they produced it in all the liveries that you could possibly want, and now Batman have brought it out in the London Underground livery. I think it's stunning, but I still laugh the fact that so many people, because they don't know about them being trailer units, people have bought them and put them on the track and then taken them back because they don't move. and and as a Southern Region modeler, obviously I already knew that you need a loco or a unit to propel it. But it's incredible that so many people weren't aware and have bought it and have paid £200 to be disappointed the fact that it needs a loco to pull it. But the flip side is any loco can pull it. They were hauled in real life by 47s, by 33-1s, by 33-0s, 73s, 50s. So they're now hauled by class 20s and 37s and all sorts. So it is a great. I just think it's a great unit, great finish, and I'm so chuffed that Kerno sponsored it being made, because it is an absolutely stunning piece of modelling.
Mm. I always say to people that £200 is a lot of money for that unit. And to be fair, you can buy it a lot cheaper than that now, because usually if you go to a show that Kerno are at, it's usually on offer.
Mm.
But my argument is that's still £50 a coach. Like when people
Hmm.
say, "Oh, that's such an expensive price for something that isn't powered," it's like, well, it's a fantastically detailed model. The paint on it is next next to none. It is such a good unit. You couldn't
Mm.
buy any new up-to-date coaches with lighting for that amount of money.
Yeah,
You'd
yeah,
still be paying 80 quid. What now?
yeah, and it not only is the lighting good, but you can also change the ends so that the head codes are different. And I just think that they really did an incredibly great job on it. And it's a stunning model, and it's still selling well today. So all power to Kerno for getting behind Batman producing that model, because it is an absolutely stunning model.
Perfect.
And that concludes my list.
Well, thank you. That was a lovely double list. I did really appreciate it.
Thank you for letting me run away with it. Apologies to everyone out there that's like, oh God, is he still going on?
But the thing is, it is nice to, well, for me, I'd enjoy listening to this because I'd almost be playing a bingo at home because I know people play bingo with the show in general anyway. They're waiting for me to offend someone northern and all that sort of stuff. But it's things like this where I'm like, oh, are they going to say what I think they're going to say? And then in your head you're doing that, right? Here's what I'd pick. Oh, maybe I wouldn't have gone with that. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that one and things like that. Like the 442 was so close to being on my list because I'm in the process of like trying to make one in TT, but like I also I tried to think about the models that, or I tried to think about the units that I know that I love, and it took me a long time to come around to say like the 442, and it's only because of chatting with you and seeing your models in person that I went, oh, I actually quite like that. I did because it's not something that I saw necessarily growing up. It wasn't a big thing for me to travel to London and go ride on the 442, so I didn't really
Mm,
have that. Um, Cool. So we're going to round this out by going a little bit into, obviously, we've talked about things that are great and ready to run. We've talked about some of our favorite units, but there's still a lot of units out there, some of which, I mean, we some of them were in our top real life units anyway, that aren't available. So I think Danny and I are just going to have a little chat about some of the ways that you can do this and you can achieve kit building and cut and shuts and all that sort of stuff.
mm.
So yeah, so let's start. So Danny, uh, whilst I have done a few kit builds, a few cut and shuts and stuff like that, I haven't done the amount that you've done, and your work is phenomenal, and I've always loved seeing it, and it is really inspiring for anyone who wants to model multiple units. But because we've already said there's a lot of units that just aren't available right now, what do you do? Where'd you go? How would you get started in this sort of journey of multiple units?
So for me, I pretty much went through a list of everything that I wanted growing up that I was almost denied. It's probably the best way of putting it. So it's for me, it was a case of saying, okay, what have we got available that I could adapt or reuse or convert? And I'm very lucky because my best friend Pete from NSC Latchmere, we are the same age. We grew up together. We went to school together as kids, and we both have the same passion for EMUs and Southern region modelling in general. So between us, we were able to essentially convert stuff, and Pete, the thing I'd say about Pete is he's quite good at just saying, right, I'm just going to hack this unit up and make it into this. And so I think I'm probably a bit more cautious, but I'll always be forever indebted to him because he took sometimes the step that I was too frightened to make. And so I can imagine, I get a lot of people saying to me, like, I can't do what you do. If I took a hacksaw or a knife to one of my models, I don't think it would be, I could rescue it. and I always think, well, you don't know until you try. And it, if you're going to do something like that, then you don't start off, you don't go out and buy the most expensive model and then start hacking away with a blunt blade or a screwdriver or anything like that. You go and practice and try something cheap, like you can pick up a Lima or a Hornby Mark One now, pretty much less than 10 quid second hand.
Mm.
And so if you were going to practice and have a go and learn your craft, then that's what you would do. We're really lucky now because there's a lot of kits out there in a multitude of scales that enable you to pretty much create most of the units that you might want to do. Certainly Southern. I don't think it's the same unfortunately, for our friends on the Eastern region and the Midlands, but there are pretty much most kits available. So I think the thing to do initially is to do your research, get your photos. There's great sites available. Flickr is probably the one I use the most. You can use Facebook, you can use Google. Get loads and loads of pictures, do your research. For the Southern region units, I tend to use the Hornby VEP, which I think is one that I didn't purposely omit from my list of my favorite RTR units. But it is actually my ultimate all-time favorite RTR unit for the simple reason that it can be used for so many other things, not just its current sort of standard VEP form. So I've built other units using the Hornby VEP as a base and then rebuilt the body shells into other units using kits. MJT provide etched kits that you can use for that. CMAC produce a number of Mark III based kits that are probably the easiest kits to build because they come as a body shell, a pre-built body shell, a pre-built chassis, and bogies. And then all you do is put the three pieces together and you're done. Well, you have to paint it and put all the other bits in, but that's essentially the biggest part of the job. Bratchell model kits produce Mark III based units, so 455s, 317s, they do 150s, they do all of that Brel design Mark III based unit. And then there's other scales. We've recently, or I should say you have recently discovered a brand that does kits in N-gauge, TT and double O as well, haven't you, Sam?
I have. So I can't take all the credit for this. So apologies, because I was trying to find the comment. Someone left a comment on one of our YouTube videos saying to me that the following has now started printing their work in TT as well as N. Now, I had heard of this company prior to being told this, but because I knew that they only did it in N, I didn't really think much of it. But you can now purchase from Gosport Railworks N, TT, HO, and double O gauges. And it's a little bit like on the Model U website. So when you go to purchase something like it's a 3D printed body shell, naturally comes up in N gauge first, and then you can switch and choose between N gauge, HO, TT. There's some of them that don't offer all of those gauges, but there is an absolute plethora of units on there that I've been texting backwards and forwards with Danny quite a lot this week about this would be good, and stuff like that. And very much like the CMAC models, you can get it in a kit form where all you need are the wheels. So you could have it as a dummy coach option, or if you can figure out a way of motorizing it, which I think is most of the problem that we have, especially with TT at the moment. So if you're interested in modeling N gauge multiple units, there's something. But also for those of you who are TT based who want to start modeling stuff that's a bit more southern based, there are other regions that they cover, and it's not just multiple units, it's also normal coaches, locomotives, steam, diesel, stuff like that. So Gosport Railworks, have a look on their website because there's I got lost and theoretically spent thousands of pounds on this website this week. I'm trying to decide what I'd like to get as like my first kit build in TT. But yeah, there's a lot on here, and because of the scale,
Yeah.
I think these are going to look great. So if you've ever used Gosport Railworks for N or TT, please let us know because I'd be really intrigued to see the sort of the finishes that you might have got. But as I say, I've heard of these guys doing N for quite some time, and I can't wait to give it a try in TT because there's so many options on there.
I was really impressed actually, and I'll be honest, I'm always very skeptical when it comes to new some of the new sort of varieties of bits and pieces that are available. But I think the thing that I like most of all about these guys is A, it's affordable. B, it's proven in N scale or N gauge, and all they've done is they've produced it as an N gauge model and said, right, okay, if we're going to scale up for TT, it needs to be, it needs to scale up in such a way that it is literally a mathematical scale up. So it's the N gauge version, but bigger. So I think that's a really good shout, and particularly for TT, to be able to buy a 4-car set for essentially 80 quid, I thought was phenomenal. And when you look at the artwork for these and the CAD designs, they look really, really impressive. So I'm very excited to get started with you on those, Sam, in TT. Not that I'm switching to TT, by the way, but I'm very excited to support you in that. So that's going to be great, and I'm really excited for that.
I do always refer to you as my hobby sensei. That is. I had a hobby sensei when it came to Warhammer, and as I've moved over to Trains, you have become my hobby sensei when it comes to multiple units and stuff like that. So yeah, I think there's some great choices, and I would put the feelers out there for if we've not mentioned anyone that like different kits and stuff that you can use to build in various gauges and scales, please let us know, because it'd be lovely if we could share this information as well.
Definitely.
One that you brushed on that I think for me was a fantastic starting point in this kit building exercise was MJT kits, or there's another name that they go by when they're at shows, but I can't remember what it is.
Dark castings.
Dark castings. Thank you very much. That's who I used when I did my first ever kit build, and with yours and Pete's advice whilst doing it. Fantastic brass kits. I was always so worried about using them, but they're durable enough.
And you're not alone.
Yeah, I
You're
think
not alone, Sam.
I think that's one of the biggest problems for anyone listening. But I think it's one of those things where take the time and plan and speak to people and ask for advice. So like, don't be afraid to message me or Danny, about like asking for advice on these sort of things, because we've been there before. And there will have been times where we've got the finished product and it looks great, but sometimes you do make mistakes along the way, and you do have to fix things whilst doing these. And I think it's definitely a great place to start. Is there anything else you want to say about the dark casting stuff before because there's one other honourable mention I want to talk about as well.
Okay. I would say that for me, the MJT dark castings kits opened up a tsunami of doors that weren't available prior. And I grew up with NTK, who were producing etch kits back in the 80s. They were quite crude, and they weren't particularly detailed, and they weren't particularly great in the sense that you had something that was quite a sharp finish when it was done. But they did everything that you could possibly want to do in an etch kit of the time of these units we had in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, the Mark I based units. So they opened up a lot of doors, and MJT just took that and took it a step further. So you got this really strong, sharp finish. And I've probably got 20 MJT built units, and they form the base of my fleet. So I'm a huge fan. And there's also another brand called Worsley Works, who also produce the same style of etch kit, and they complement each other quite well, because Worsley Works do some of the ones that MJT don't do. So between the two of them, you can pretty much do most, I would say, southern region, if not slightly, you can venture out into western region as well in DMUs. But those are the two, and MJT in particular, I'm a huge fan. So yeah, a lot of love for MJT.
Nice. That's it it's nice that there's people out there who have done all these things. And very quickly uh, on the back of the Wesley Works thing, you did also message me and say, did you see that they're now offering that if you want this in TT, and message them and they'll do it in TT as well. So they
Yeah,
also have different scales that they operate in. So like that, there's not just the one available. There's and CMAC models as well. Not to write them out. They also make some certain units, especially the 444. One of the
yeah,
like they've
yeah.
done some of the more modern
The
units. They now
zero.
do, yeah. And they also the 377s as well, the Electro Stars as well.
Mm.
So they've brought some sort of more modern multiple unit versions out, and they're easy enough that you could easily try and work out a way of doing a little pantograph for the 377s to make them the overhead versions that you get on like the GWR and the Midlands and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And the great thing about CMAC models is they're actually really easy to build because
Mm.
there's no construction involved in terms of putting the sides on or gluing roofs or ends or anything like that on, because they're obviously 3D printed. You know, you get a whole body shell and you get a whole chassis. And this, you know, the chassis for a Mark One based unit is actually quite difficult to build because you've got to get all the component parts and so on. And CMAC take all of that away and just give you the actual chassis ready done. And it's very, very detailed. It's not an ugly kind of like clumpy, oh, we'll just have a couple of boxes here or there. It's all very, very well detailed. So huge fan of CMAC. And they're great for the modern stuff. MJT pretty much based on the Mark One based units, and Worsley Works do all of the Mark One based units, but they also do it in Engage and in TT. So, and they actually specialize in Engage and TT. Double O is probably the shortest string to the bow. So it's definitely there's some really good opportunities out there to pretty much build most of the things you want to build if you've got the time and the money to do it. And therein is the challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely a time, money, and patience as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, my only like little thing I wanted to sort of throw in, and this is where you have to have the either the patience of a saint and bargain hunting, or somebody who has a plethora of money to be able to go out and buy them. But like in Double O, I built I believe the cut and shut is also a really easy way to get into sort
yeah,
of building units. Um, I loved the Bachmann 150 and I wanted to make a 455 stroke 9. And one of my reasons for loving the 150 and the 455 is they're almost basically exactly the same unit. One's just a two-car DMU and one's a four-car. Um, so in order to create that for me in Double O, my thought process for it was buying two Class 150s and finding a way of doing a cut and shut on the two center coaches, which meant that I had to sort of source body shells. But if you've got the patience to do a cut and shut, you can effectively cut parts off the body shells and put them and then glue them together to create your center cars and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it's a little bit like I mean Everard Junction's Thumper three-car Thumper that he made is a really good video representation of explaining how to do a cut one coach up to form another coach and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah.
I'd recommend anyone who's not done it go and have a look at Everard Junction's Thumper build video on his YouTube channel because it is a really good tool for trying to find a way of doing it. Because once you do it for the first time, and I think you'd agree with me here, you do it for the first time and then suddenly you feel a little bit more. It's a little bit like weathering. Once you've done it, that sort of fear of ruining something goes away, and you
Yeah,
start opening up this world that you haven't yet
yeah.
done.
Well, that's why it's always good to practice on the cheaper things that you can get your hands on and kind of learn how, you know, cutting plastic works. Because I did a very similar thing with I built a 4 EPB, which is the same as the class 416 but four coaches. And I did the same cut and shut method for the trailer coaches that Everard Junction did with the thumper centre coach by essentially cutting the cab off and sticking a second inner end from another coach and cutting and shutting the two together. And I did a very similar thing with the Hornby Class 466 because I wanted a four-car Class 465, the networkers. So I did the same method, exactly the same method. You basically take two spare dummy body shells and cut the cabs off and essentially stick them together. And if you find the right place to cut, i.e. like a door line, you can actually cut the body shell, file it down to the door line, and then stick the two pieces together. And you don't even have to repaint it. You might have to touch up a little bit just where the actual physical join is, but you don't actually have to repaint it. And I did 2 4 EPBs for an exhibition layout known as Folly Lane, and you know they were very quick to do because the actual paint job on them didn't need doing. So once you get the practice in and have a go at a few of those, you can get it down to a point where you don't have to do as much work as you think you would do. So there's definitely some opportunity there in doing cut and shuts, definitely.
Okay. Well, I think that's a really good place to sort of round out this chat. Is there anything last minute things that we've not talked about that you want to talk about? Or
yes, I just want to sort of wrap up from where we started, really. So when we started, we talked about our frustration with the lack of availability of model units, and I just want to sort of share my love and appreciation for a number of brands that are bringing out units over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, and just sort of give them a big up, because Helljan are bringing out the 153 and the 155. Acura Scale are bringing out a 377, 375 and a 387, the Electra Stars. Dapol are bringing out the 323. EFE are bringing out 313 and 314, which is the 3-car units that we were chatting about earlier. Revolution, who I have to say, Revolution are probably my favourite at the moment, and the one that I really want to champion more than anyone else, because Revolution are bringing out the 175 and the 180 very shortly, which are both DMUs that were used, that are still in use today, I should say. And they've also got the Class 321 and the 320, which are overhead electrification units that run, well, the 321s are all gone now, but they were predominantly in the eastern region, which I've already alluded to has been quite under supported, and the 320, which currently run in Scotland at the moment. And I just think what Revolution are doing is just something to be celebrated, because they're not just smashing it in double O, they're also smashing it in N-Gauge. And they're also bringing out the Electra Stars in N-Gauge. Acura Scale are doing it in double O. And the 313, they're also doing an N-Gauge. So huge thank you to the boys at Revolution. They are amazing guys. I've met most of them on the circuit last year and the year before, and they genuinely love what they do. They absolutely love what they do. And so I'm really hopeful that they have great success with these units. The 175 and the 180 are phenomenal. And the 321 and 320, I have really high hopes for. So yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to them. And also to Railtech, who produce custom transfers, which are, I cannot begin to say how useful Railtech have been over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Steve, who basically produces all these transfers, will pretty much produce whatever you ask him to do, and does a phenomenal job at it. Does the research, offers custom options, custom numbering, which, let's be honest, long gone are the days where you're kind of moving 3s and 2s and 4s together and trying to get them to look straight. He'll just produce the numbering for you straight away. So if I can recommend anyone, it's Railtech. They're fantastic, absolutely superb.
Second that. They specifically do a multiple unit kit as well, where I think it's £3 last time I bought it. It's something ridiculously cheap.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and all they ask for you is the unit number, the coach numbers, the depot number, and all the stuff that's on there. You fill in the blanks, and they'll print it for you, so you have all your numbers for your multiple units. And I've used them in the past. I've got some sat here ready to go for TT. They yeah, second that. Absolutely blown away by how good their transfers are.
Superb. But yeah, I would say Railtech, yeah, huge fan.
Wow, it's been a lovely chat, Danny.
Thank you for letting me come and ramble on. I'm sorry if you've lost a lot of people switching off. Gone, oh God, he's still going on. I'll come back in half an hour.
That's right. That's what 1.5 speed's for.
Thank you.
Brilliant. If people want to get hold of you, how can they get hold of you?
So yeah, various multiple units. I use the hashtag on everything I post. So if you're on TikTok, if you're on Instagram, just hashtag various multiple units, and my posts will come up. So I use that for pretty much all my social media now.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Danny. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
You there? Oh, me? Do you like model railways? Yes, that's why I'm listening to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. Do you like comedy? No, that's why I'm listening to the Model Rail Replacement podcast. If you like model railways and comedy, head over to BugglesKellyStation.com. From Dad's Army to Will Hay, Laurel and Hardy to the island of Sodor. Add a comedy cameo to your model railway today. All right, thanks. Buggles Kelly Station. You won't be wasting your time.
And that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you so much to Danny from Various Multiple Units for coming on and helping out with this show, and a massive thank you to you listening at home. If you'd like to support the show, one of the best things that you can do is go onto Spotify or Apple Podcasts or even YouTube and leave a nice comment or a very good 5-star review. It does help us out massively. All that's left to say is that hopefully we've been entertaining, informative, and have replaced your model railway, even if just for a little bit. I've been Sam, and with me was Danny. Thanks for listening. This service terminates here. Please ensure you take all of your personal belongings with you.